The Florida Gators rushing attack is going to pave the way for the offense in 2025.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews of the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday! I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start placing your futures bets today. And before we even talk about this run game, which I do think is going to lead the way for this offense, if you didn't see yesterday, if you don't follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon, if you don't follow Locked On Gators on Instagram or Threads at Locked On Gators, then you didn't see this, which is that Hayden Hansen, Florida Gators starting tight end, is going to be back this year with Locked On Gators every week during the season for the fourth year in a row, and I'm incredibly excited for that one. Talking about this Florida Gators run game, I think that we'll start with the talent, then we'll go to scheme, and then we'll go to building off of that. But when we talk about the talent, this offensive line, which we're not going to go too in-depth on, we've spoken, incessantly about the offensive line lately. But this offensive line, bringing back four of their five starters, is vitally important. And I think that Bryce Lovett is going to be an upgrade in the run game over Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson. We'll see what he's going to be in the passing game. I think that's where Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson was more effective and more beneficial for the Florida Gators in 2024. But I think that Bryce Lovett is going to help open up this run game. Okay? So the offensive line talent, we know it's there. The expectations are there for this offensive line to be one of the best in the entire country in 2025. So I don't think anybody is necessarily surprised by saying, yeah, the offensive line is going to help the run game, which, of course, good offensive line can make an average running back look great, right? And we've seen that before. We've seen bad offensive lines make great running backs look awful before. Like, I still go back to early in my NFL draft coverage talking about Cam Akers from Florida State. But I remember watching the offensive line and saying that offensive line is so horrible, but he still looks good, which means he is fantastic. Like that was the approach that I had. And we've seen times with like Dameon Pierce, who's like, yeah, he's getting hit behind the line so many times, but he's still gaining yards. Like we've seen a Florida side of it as well. And so I think that the offensive line being good can make a bad running back look average, an average running back look really good. But here's the thing. Florida doesn't have bad running backs that are going to be playing, or even average running backs that are going to be playing. Florida has damn good running backs that are going to be playing, right? Jadan Baugh is one of the most physically imposing young backs that we've seen in quite some time in college football, really. I think that, and I know people are going to talk about, well, he was recruited as a linebacker at first. I don't give a damn what he was recruited as at first. I give a damn about what he's doing. And Jadan Baugh last year had 5 yards per carry as a true freshman. Led the team in rushing yards, also had the most carries on the team. He also had 3.2 yards after contact per carry. Okay? Jacoby Jackson, 5.3 yards per carry last year. They both had 7 touchdowns. Jacoby Jackson had the third most yards and carries on the team. Jacoby Jackson had 3.5 yards after contact per carry. Like, I just want to make clear, that's incredibly impressive. Okay, like those are very impressive numbers. To have basically 60% of your yards come after contact, huge, especially when you've got an offensive line that, again, last year had their fair share of issues. Last year, I don't think they did a great job of creating consistent rushing yards outside of the tackles, really. Austin Barber's side as well dealt with their fair share of struggles. Especially Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson's side, I thought struggled quite a bit to the point where they stopped running to that side so much unless there was a tight end there. And even then, they weren't super stoked to deal with that. which also, by the way, the Florida Gators tight end room this year is way more equipped to handle responsibilities as run blockers than last year. Hayden Hansen, I mean, never been quiet about how I feel about him and his blocking ability. I've been very open. I think that we're talking long-term NFL guy. Not going to be, top of the receiving numbers or anything, but you look at our Mercedes Lewis type, and I think that you're in solid spot there, Cole Kmet. And so I think that the tight ends this year are way more equipped to contribute in the run blocking game because you don't have Arliss Boardingham. And look, I think that when the Florida Gators fan base soured on him, they soured on him hard. He was never really my type of tight end. I like the blocking types. I like the inline guys. But Tony Livingston joining that now as a starter, paired with Hayden Hansen, that's a powerful tight end duo in the run game. Okay. Well, we could talk about production, and everybody could talk about production and can talk about how they've not been used in the passing game so much. And I agree they should be used more. I don't like using a lack of targets as justification for why they're not a great duo. They're damn good blockers, and having them both on the field at the same time, because you're going to see 12 personnel, might see it less, but you're going to see it. Having them both on the field at the same time opens up a lot for your run game. Like we've talked about split zone, which split zone has the tight end coming across the formation. Having a Hayden or Tony there. By the way, when it was Arliss, you kind of knew that if he was going to be there, he wasn't making much of an impact. You could watch the film and see him not be effective there. But when you've got Hayden, you've got Tony there, way more effective blockers there. And you're less one-sided, less obvious there as well. You can have counter with guys pulling. I think that you've got a lot. We'll talk about the scheme more in the next segment. But I think that you've got a tight end room that's more equipped to block there. So when you go, hey, the offensive line should be pretty good. Offensive line should be really good for the Florida Gators in 2025. You can go, well, the running backs should be really good for the Florida Gators in 2025 as well. When you look at Jadan Baugh, Jacoby Jackson, if Trayon Webb is healthy, I think Katie Daniels is going to be a bit of a boom or bust guy first. And then once he settles in a little bit, you'll see him open up a bit more, because he's the kind of guy where I think you see it a lot with young running backs that have great vision in high school. When they get to college, it takes them a little bit to adjust, and then they start opening up and firing downfield. And I think Katie Daniels can do that. I think he's got just a ton of speed. He was a guy when we were talking about Katie Daniels or Jadan Baugh. I was talking about Katie Daniels as my favorite running back in the class, and I still stand by it. Not saying that he's better now. Not saying that at all. I'm not going to argue with Jadan Baugh's success or anything. I'm just saying that I still stand by my high school evaluation of liking Katie Daniels, because he's more my style of back. And so that's obviously going to go into my opinion of just pure vision and explosiveness. And I like that kind of running back. And Jadan Baugh coming in with another year, he seemed to me like he is more of a rhythm back, right? Like, you don't want to give him the ball for one carry and then take him out. You don't want to give him the ball for one drive, put him on the field, and then take him out for 2 drives or take him out for 3 drives or anything like that. So you want to get him the ball more frequently, and him being the expected starting running back, the primary back this year, he's going to get those carries. And I think that when he gets into that rhythm, he's going to be a lot more explosive and a lot more dynamic. And so I'm really looking forward to what Jadan Baugh is going to bring to the table here, because we can talk about the offensive line all we want. And look, without a good offensive line, your running back's not going to be as effective. Your quarterback's not going to be as effective. But just because you have a good offensive line doesn't mean that either of those are going to be effective. It means that they're going to be put in better positions, but they still got to go out there and execute. And it feels really comforting as a fan to say, well, they've still got to go out there and execute, but I have full faith in Jadan Baugh and Jacoby Jackson to go out there and execute. And that feels like a good spot to be in from a Florida Gators fan perspective, especially when we talk about guys that can make people miss. I think Jadan Baugh is better at making people miss than Katie Daniels is. I think Jadan Baugh is better at making people miss, honestly, than even Jacoby Jackson. I think Jadan Baugh does a phenomenal job in space for a person his size, because you don't want to get in front of that either. I can attest to that. You don't want to get in front of that kind of guy. And so I think that Jadan Baugh having that size but still being able to make people miss is going to be incredible. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that with a starter caliber carries. Because, yes, Jadan Baugh had the most carries last year, but 133 carries isn't exactly world beating at all. It's not exactly, oh, that's our starting back fully. I think that when you talk about a team that they want to run the ball a lot, like Florida wants to, and Florida has wanted to under Billy Napier, and that you want, the 150, 160-ish range with Jacoby Jackson still getting his fair share of carries. And if you're winning more games, because think about it, there were some games where you went down, you had to throw your way back into it. When you're winning more games, you get to run more. And if Florida gets a lead, it's going to be tough to come back if you're another team. It's going to be tough to stop Florida if they've got a lead and they're trying to kill clock. That's going to be brutal. We're going to talk about the scheme for the run game and how that's going to help for the Florida Gators offense in 2025 when we get back with Locked On Gators. As summer winds down, there's something nice about getting back into the routine that you love, right? And Wayfair makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding and linens to storage solutions for every single room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home. I've said before, I spent a long while on Wayfair with my fiance looking to redo our living room earlier this year. And now we're moving out of this place. And so we're going to have to redo that all over again, but I'm not miserable about it. It is fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's like a guilty pleasure thing, to just keep refreshing, right? Keep getting organized, getting refreshed, and getting back to routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free, breakfast the podcast and on YouTube. And we're going to talk a bit about the Florida Gators run game as far as scheme goes. Florida, or we'll say Billy Napier, has a bit of a reputation as being more zone-oriented, right? And I do think that last year they were zone-oriented, and I thought that they were pretty effective running zone, and they were more effective, though, running more gap scheme. I think one of the reasons that they didn't go as gap scheme heavy is the personnel, right? We'll see what Damian George is going to be. Honestly, I don't like the idea of him pulling far. And when you're running power and he's got to pull, not a huge fan of it. Najee Harris on the other side, I support that one. And I do think, again, that Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon wasn't going to run dart, dart is the power has the guard pulling across, dart is the tackle pulling across. And we've seen throughout Billy Napier's career, he's brought dart into the game. And I don't think Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon is capable of running dart. He just didn't have the agility to go out there and contribute and be used as a puller there. Because of Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon's inability to pull like that, we didn't get to see many counter plays that have been pulling. Because we've seen that Florida has throughout Billy Napier's tenure, run GT counter, which is the guard and the tackle pulling across. And when you've got the right side of Damian George or Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, it's not exactly a liberating duo to have when you want to run offensive schemes, run schemes that have tackles moving out in space. And it was pretty clear when they would not be on the field that you would see more gap scheme, right? Or that you would see more screens. Because it's when you got to put your offensive linemen out in space that you don't want guys that aren't very agile. So you can look in space. You could see Jake Slaughter pulling across. You could see Austin Barber moving in space. When Caden Jones came onto the field, you could see Caden Jones getting out and moving in space. You could that screen still with I forget who it was. It might have been Jaden Baugh. The swing screen. Caden Jones out in space, moving downfield, blocking. You're a lot less restricted this year, I think, with your personnel. And so I think that you could see, and by the way, we did the math from 2024 with the Kentucky game, and we went through the numbers of Florida was way more effective when running first off split zone, which is still obviously zone, but when running split zone, when running counter. Those were two areas where they were really effective, and I want to keep seeing it. I have never been shy that when we talk about split zone, I love it. When we talk about GT or GY counter, love it. I do. I think those are my two favorite run schemes. Duos up there as well. And I think that when you have this personnel that they should have in 25, or that they do have in 2025, you should be able to get more creative with it. More counter, more trap, more dart. I think that now in 2025, you have the offensive line personnel where you're capable of running pretty much anything that you want to. And I'm not saying that, you're going to run anything and they're all going to be incredibly effective and you're going to dominate on all of them. I think earlier on in the season, you're probably going to see a wide array of runs or run concepts. And then as they figure out what's effective by that first bye week, they start getting rid of some things. And I think that's one of the major benefits of having those first two games be against Long Island and then USF is that you can work around whatever you want in the run game. And you can go, well, if Dart didn't work against Long Island or if Dart didn't work against South Florida, it's not going to work against LSU. And so we're going to scrap that from the game plan. I think that right now you're just in a spot where you could do a lot with your run game, which, by the way, you can also, or you probably are, also going to have that jet sweep game, maybe more reverses, maybe some more wildcat stuff. You're going to have more that you can do this year because you've got a more talented team in 2025 than you had in 2024. Even if you've got a lot of the players. Like, the thing is, this isn't the NFL where 6 years in or even 4 or 5 years in, guys have done a lot of their development. It's not super common that guys are 22 when they enter the league, are 27, 26, and they still have a ton of room to grow. They usually still get better, but not take these big leaps and bounds. This is college where it's different. You could be in year 4, year 5, and you're still taking these big, significant developmental leaps because you're young. And so you've still got that ability to continue developing. Like we could talk about how guys are more experienced now, but they're also getting better because they're still young players. They're still developing football players. And so I think that now, while you've got a lot of guys back, a lot of them should be better. Some of them are going to be worse. That's fine. But a lot of them should be better in 2025 than they were in 2024. And I think that with the offensive line, with the tight ends, because again, I do think that Tony Livingston's ability to be used as a blocker opens up this run game even more. And then you've got the Trey Wilson's healthy. You've got Jadan Baugh, who we've seen work in the Wildcat before. You've got all these moving pieces that can give you an even more creative rushing attack in 2025 than you had in 2024, and a more effective rushing attack in 2025 than you had in 2024. Also, we can take a brief second to talk about how strength and conditioning, especially the strength part, has been really evident this past 8 months, I'll say, since in just 2025 in general. From the end of the 2024 season till now, we've seen guys take leaps and bounds physically. And I think that the fact that you've seen that is going to contribute, or is going to help when we talk about strength and conditioning, guys being more physically imposing. You've got that now. You've even got guys that are listed as the same weight they were last year, but they look better. That's not an accident. That's strength and conditioning. And so I think that Florida, schematically, you could do anything you want. You'll figure out what works, you'll figure out what won't, but you're not going to be restricted by things because you go, well, we just don't have the athletes to do that. That's one thing Florida's not going to be restricted by. You could be restricted by, hey, we're just not effective running this for whatever reason. It's not clicking chemistry-wise. It's predictable, whatever it is, right? It's not going to be because you don't have the athletes to do it. Offensive line, tight end room, running back room, wide receiver room, quarterback room, by the way, because you'll see split zone read probably at some point. It's not going to be the athletes that keep you from doing anything schematically, passing or running the game, or running the ball. We're talking about running the ball. It's not going to be the athletes, all right? So I'm really looking forward to watching Florida's scheme develop in a way where they're probably going to do less as the year goes on, but they're going to be more effective in those areas. And I think that scheme going to be really fun to watch this year. Then we got to talk about how Florida can build off of that, which we've seen before. We're going to keep seeing, and we're going to talk about it when we get back with Locked On Gators. August 26th, 2025 is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. I apologize, Bucs fans. I might throw it on something silly like Panthers winning the division. It'll be big plus money. And I do think the Bucs are an injury away from losing the division, so could see it. Could see it. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only, August 26th. FanDuel, play your game. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free for every single podcast and on YouTube. And I'm going to get this part out of the way right now. I think we all know when we talk about the run game, oftentimes when you then go, oh, then you build off of it with the play action passing game. No one's going to deny that. No one's going to dispute that. Okay? When you have, let me get the controversial part. I'm not even controversial, just the part that I know people are going to complain about. You don't need an effective running game to have an effective play action passing game. Okay? You could say whatever you want. You could try to back it up in any way that you want. Numbers back it up. Film backs it up. You don't need a successful running game to have a successful play action passing game. Because again, especially in college, guys are more likely to bite on the play fake. Guys are more likely to make a mistake in coverage. Guys are more likely to be just delayed for a quarter of a second, half a second, and then they're beat. But again, numbers, film, they tell you, you don't need a successful running game in order to have a successful play action passing game. However, when you have a successful running game, your play action passing game does benefit. Okay? So basically, it's like, yeah, you like having a better run game makes your play action passing game way better. But also, just regardless of having a good running game, your play action passing game is probably going to take steps up. So we can talk about that. And then we can acknowledge that probably everybody watching this or listening to this or consuming it in any way that you are, you, especially if you've made it this far, you probably think Florida is going to have a pretty successful running game in 2025. I think most people should think that, because every logical point to be made says that Florida should have a good running game in 2025. They've got a great offensive line. They've got a great running back room. They've got a quarterback in DJ Lagway that is threatening enough as a passer where you have to respect that. And he's also a dual threat where you've got to respect his legs as well. Okay? Which, again, you're going to see read option at some point. You're going to see RPOs where he's going to have the freedom to keep it if he wants. Get over it if you disagree or if you don't like it. Tough stuff. However, DJ Lagway is also one of the better quarterbacks in one area of the game, and arguably the best quarterback in the country in another area of the game. Okay. DJ Lagway, when throwing the deep ball, was 19 for 26 on passes of 20 plus yards downfield. He completed 19 of 36 passes. I think I said 26. 19 of 36 passes. Completed 53% of those passes, which, by the way, is a very high percentage to complete when you're throwing the ball 20 plus yards downfield. Completed 53% of those passes. 733 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, but very effective. PFF passing grade of 95.6. Just best deep ball passer in the country. Okay? When you've got a good running game and teams have to bring a safety down, it makes it a lot easier to attack. This year, I expect to see a lot of teams come out with 2 high safeties and essentially dare Florida to throw the deep ball, and Florida can run them, right? Then, when Florida effectively runs the ball, defense is going to bring one of those safeties down into the box, and then you've got 1 high, and your quarterback can attack vertically. That's where DJ Lagway is going to make a lot of his money, right? A lot of his bread. The other thing where DJ Lagway is pretty good at, or I'd say really good at, but not one of the best in the country, but really good, play action passing game. On play action passes, DJ Lagway completed 46 of his 71 attempts, which completed 65%, basically. It's like 64.8%. Completed 65% of his passes off play action, 11.5 yards per attempt, which, by the way, he averaged 9.8 yards per attempt overall. So that off play action significantly higher. 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. We know the turnovers. That's irrelevant to the conversation of how it comes off play action. There's just bad decisions or whatever it may be. Which, by the way, there were 4 drops on play action passes. And if those drops were caught, DJ Lagway would have completed 73.5% of his passes deep or off play action. Okay. Those numbers, tremendous, especially for a true freshman. Those numbers are with a good but not really elite running game paired to it. In 2025, if you've got that great running game, you've got a quarterback that has destroyed on the deep ball, that has found a ton of success off of play action. And if you can have that successful running game and that level of success throwing the football, it's going to be really tough to stop DJ Lagway when he's throwing the ball deep. I know that everyone's going to talk about DJ Lagway. Running game helps him immensely and will be a huge benefactor, or he'll be a huge benefactor of a good running game, which Florida Gators should have, and it should help carry the offense in 2025. Thanks for being Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, wherever the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back on Monday at the absolute latest. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.